Hello. Today we're going to take this Apple IIe that I bought on eBay from broken to fixed. So I'm going to split out the power supply repair, the keyboard repair, the drive maintenance and the CRT repair into separate videos, just in order to keep this a bit shorter. I still need to edit these extra videos, so keep a lookout for notifications and come back and watch them. I got this with a whole stack of manuals as well, which was very nice. Reports and so forth. 80-column graphics manual. So a good selection of manuals that came with it, which is fantastic. It came with two drives. No idea whether these work or not because I can't test them. And it also came with a monitor, which also doesn't work. As you can see, it's just got a vertical line, so there's something up with the horizontal sync. Inside were all these cards, quite a few of them. So that is a 80-column memory expansion pack. And that is a printer card. That is the drive card for drive 1 and drive 2, and that is a parallel interface card as well. It didn't come with a printer, but I've got various printers I can plug into it. So I took all of those out because I did have an initial look at this. The other thing that was in here was this card, which is an RF module card, which plugs in, and I'm assuming he had this on because you could plug it into a TV and then have color. The monitor I've got, of course, is just a green monochrome. Also came with a bunch of discs, various files, soft work reports, and write graph, and 2 data ones. Now, the person I bought this from originally bought this. He worked for a chemical company and he wanted to manage his inventory and so forth. So he bought an Apple IIe and wrote his own little program on it, I think, and then from there upgraded to more advanced machines. But these are great machines, and I particularly wanted to get one of these because I had one of these. Well, I didn't have one of these. I used one of these back in South Africa when I did some electronics and some programming, and remember having a huge amount of fun with it. And it's a good computer. This keyboard feels amazing. This is a really nice keyboard. It's such a difference from things like obviously the ZX Spectrum and ZX81, Commodore 64, which I also had. It had a terrible keyboard, but this is very usable. And very nice. So there we go, that is it. We're going to do a repair on this. I'm hoping the disk drives work, but I'm going to get all of this up and running and just plugged into my monitor in the meantime. And when I've got this running, I will take a look at the green monochrome monitor and try to get that fixed. Now, other than it being having a little bit of wear and tear, it's actually in good nick. It's beautifully clean inside. Let's see if we can just zoom in a bit here for you. There we go. You can see that the red power light comes on over there. So chances are the power supply is fine, although I'll probably double check that. Might want to do a recap on that, but we'll see how that goes. At the moment, I'm just going to make the assumption that it is fine. It's very clean in here. There's no dirt, no rust, no anything else. It had been sitting in his loft for many years. So I'm going to guess that either I just need to set and reset some of these chips. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to set and reset chips and see whether we get something a little bit better out of that. I'm not sure what that LED is at the back there. It's a diagnostic LED of sort. I'll need to look at that. This is a 1982 B6070264-F. I'm just going to switch it off. I think what I'll probably do is take the board out, give it a good clean and go from there. Pop off. There's the keyboard. Also looks in fairly good nick. It looks a little bit dirty, but it's probably all fine. So there's the toggle switch, which goes over here on J19. So now I need to get these out. There we go. So there's the board, a little bit dusty on the connections there. Yeah, it's a bit dusty, but not too bad. Right, here we are. So I'm going to pull those chips, give them a bit of a clean, reset them, and see where we go from there. Right, that's got all the chips out. Now I can give it a bit of a clean. Okay, off for a wash. Right, there we go. There's the motherboard. And let's get our chips out. There we go. Now, where did these go? Ah, all sorted. I'm not going to plug the keyboard in yet, because all I want to see is, does this now give off any black smoke, which it shouldn't do, but do we come up with something other than a random screen? So let's go to that and see what happens. Moment of truth. Okay, so back to square one, but at least we are starting off with a board that is clean and definitely no issues on the dirty side of things. So I'm going to be doing some voltage checking. We've got RAM down here, so that's a big possibility of something having gone wrong over there. Of course, there could be an issue with the clock. The clock might not be running correctly on the processor. It could be any of these. It could be any of these chips. Right, so I've got some schematics here. So just looking at this one over here, we've got the 6502, the main processor, MMU, and the memory. So that is the processor, MMU over there, and the memory down here. So these are the three things I want to tackle first. I want to check some voltages on these, and then I will go to the processor and check clocks and holds and things like that on that one. So we've got one down at the bottom here. And 8. So we should have 5 volts there. We've got nothing. Oh, of course I've got no voltages. I haven't switched it on. So 5 volts there, 5 volts there, 5 volts, 5 volts, 5 volts, 5 volts, 5 volts, and 5 volts. Okay, so pin 25, 5 volts there. Let's go back to this one, 5 volts there. So I think generally voltages are okay. So just got the scope up and going to look at some of the signals. First thing on the 6502, I just want to see the clock signal, and it looks like to me clock signal coming in from 37. It should be 37. So that looks like a pretty signal, and it is measuring frequency of 1.02 meg, exactly right. So that's pretty good. Then I want to have a look at the reset, which is 40. So 40 reset is low, active low, so 40 should be high. And it is, 40 is high. Let's have a look at ready, which is pin 2. Ready is active high as well, so that should be high. And it is, so that's good. And let's just have a look at some of the address lines. 17, 18, 19, 17, 18, 19, 20. So nothing on 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Not much happening on address lines up at the top end. Let's have a look at 9 through 16. So that's 9, which is address 0. 10. Okay, so that's interesting that nothing really appears to be coming out of the address lines. Data lines is from pin 26. Something on the data lines there. So there's something on data lines, but there doesn't seem to be anything on the address lines, which is worrying, particularly near the bottom. And I would really expect those bottom address lines to be doing something. Let's have a look at, on the memory, 5 is a 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is stuff happening here. That of course goes into the MMU. So let's just have a look at the MMU, which is this one here. I see 4, address line 2, nothing, 40. So I don't know where will be these 2 ROMs here. Okay, so after some more poking around, I think I know what the issue is. Clock signals are fine, Voltages on the chips look like they're all right. There's a bit of weird data, I think, coming through. I've taken out the normal logic chips, these ones here, and tested those in my Dataman programmer, which can test these chips as well, and they're all absolutely fine. They work. But what I did notice is that I took out the ROM chips in order to back them up. The Apple one, the video ROM backed up fine. I did battle a bit to get this one to do anything. But these two were particularly strange. These are the main program ROMs split into these two, so CD-ROM and EF-ROM. And one of them, when I back them up, try and back them up, just returns zeros all the way through. So it reads, but zeros, or FFs actually, all the way through. So that's just reading blank. And the other one just keeps saying that there's a problem on pins 7 and 9. I think that at least these two ROMs were broken. So to pull those out, I have downloaded two ROMs, EF and CDs, and we're going to put those in and see whether this boots up. These two ROMs, there's a little story behind these ROMs. I have this tube of ROMs. They're all 2764s, which happen to be the ones I need for here. I got these ROMs about 8 or so years ago, walking through the streets of Edinburgh. And as I was walking up the street, on the side of the road was this tube of ROMs lying there. So of course I picked them up and brought them back with me, and they've been sitting in my drawer for ages, but they happened to be exactly the right ROMs. So rather lucky that that little walk 8 years ago brought up these. So there we go. Funny little story about those ROMs. We've got them in, we programmed them, they're verified on the Dataman, that's all good. So let's switch over to there, power in, got that on, keyboard switches in, keyboard's on, everything's in there. So let's switch on. Aha, there we go, it works. It was the ROMs. That was lucky. These ROMs do go from time to time, but anyway, these two are definitely dead, and they're both dead because I can't back these up or anything. It means so the keyboard is working. That means that the keyboard ROM is working. We know that the video ROM is working. So that's all good news. It's a bit, screen's looking a bit hazy on there, but I think that's just more to the conversion. I've got a box that converts the composite video into HDMI so I can get it through onto the OBS recording thing. So, but there we go, that works. That is very, very good news. So the next thing to do is to try the disk drives. Let's get the 80 column expansion card in. There we are, we've got that one in. Let's switch on again. Go to PR. How do we get a hash on here? PR hash 3. That looks like that's gone into 80 column mode. That did something. We can test that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Definitely in the 80 column mode. Okay, so that works, which is good. And that's how we switch it on. PR3. Yep, it says here if the cursor is solid, then you're in 80 column mode. All right, I'm happy with that. That shows that card works. The next thing I want to do is plug in a hard drive, not a hard drive, a floppy drive card, and see whether that works. These drives, of course, are interesting. They have their own controller card, so it was designed his own card to do it simpler and cheaper. You can read up on the history of that. But when they ordered these drives manufactured, they ordered them without various sensors and things like that. Apparently, there's a bit of a scandal around the manufacturer actually selling them defective drives to try and force them to buy the more expensive ones. But anyway, that seems to be a bit of a story. That's the drive. I know that it needs to go into 6. That looks right. Okay, so now I have some discs that came with the Apple when I bought it. So these are I've got report, I've got graph, write, and file. So there's a series. I've only got one manual for report. Over there. Put this in drive 1, and then I'll switch on, and it should boot up off this drive and run. Sounds good so far. That looks good. Ah, there we go. So that is working. What I'm going to do now, I just want to do a little bit more cleanup on this board. I want to just clean up the connections at the back here. That's probably the main thing. And then I'm going to turn my attention to the drives and give those a clean and make sure that that's all working correctly. So let's get this off. Now, you would have seen earlier that I've given this whole board a very good scrub and clean. These tend to oxidize a bit, so we're going to give all of that a clean, see whether that might actually help with the display coming out a bit. So this is just isopropylene, 99%. Okay, so let's just do some cleanup in here. Okay, let's see how that goes. I might need to do something a little bit more robust with that. Okay, there we go. Now, the joystick paddle with the paddle connection I can't clean easily, but I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I don't need that. So now at last, I think I'm ready to put the rest of this machine together. The power supply's been fixed, the keyboard's been fixed, the motherboard's been fixed, everything's been fixed. So in theory, it should all work. First things first, power supply. Okay, power supply back in. Put the speaker back on. Switch back in as well. Pops in from this side. So this is the switch between UK and US keyboards. That goes over there. Right, and then the power supply goes in over there. Whew, okay, let's plug it in. Because this will be the first time I've had everything up and running, or hopefully up and running, since I fixed the power supply. So if things are good, we should hear a beep. 1, 2, 3. That's good so far. I heard a beep. And we have action. There we go. That's a nice clear signal on there as well. And that didn't, no repeat key there. Yep, I think that's looking good. Fantastic. No smoke, no bangs. That's what I like. So let's just get this off there, and the next thing to put on will be the main cover. Okay, here we go. Yep, with my Apple IIe box, which 3D printed. Let's do the Apple RAM test utility. Right, so hopefully it will boot up on disk 1. Let's put that back on. There we go, it's running. And let it go ahead and do the test. So well done for watching this far. I am busy editing the other videos for this Apple IIe repair. That's the CRT repair, the disk drive maintenance, and the keyboard repair. So keep a lookout for those, and as always, thank you very much. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye.